Good morning, everybody. This is Sales Chatter, the logistics podcast with the mission of getting 10,000 reps to hit a million GP. I'm your co-host, Ryan Mohammed. With me is the president and CEO of RGTX Logistics Solutions, my co-host, the man himself, Jeff Dickinson. Good morning, brother. How you doing?
Good, my man. How about you, man? I'm glad that we're doing this today. This is one of my favorite topics. We have many topics for sure, but I don't know. Let's get into this.
Let's go, man.
Let's go.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
I want to say good morning to the main man himself, Rob. Do have to give a quick shout out here, Jeff. Lisa is in Rwanda. She sent us some pictures. She had an amazing flight over there. So she's going to be MIA from the show, but you know what? She's definitely building up her career and her life right now with that amazing
I love it. That's awesome to have that opportunity to go over there and into, talk about global reach, right? And be able to go to another country and sit down with a customer discussing, opportunities. That's fantastic. It doesn't get any better than that.
It really doesn't. And I had a chat last week with her husband, Chad, and he was kind of explaining to me to like raving fans. And we'll get into that because we're talking about storytelling today. That's one of the most important things before you actually pick up the phone. So, I want to show a video to everybody to basically what kind of like triggered this because I've seen a bunch of posts, but this is really what kind of triggered today's episode. And let's take a look. So this video is going to be from Alex Hormozi. He is basically the CEO and founder of acquisition.com. He basically started a gym a couple of years ago, and then he basically franchised it up to now he's doing over $200 million in sales a year with acquisition.com. So he's the guy. So I'll play this video. I don't know if it's going to play right because it's more of a vertical video, but we'll see what kind of happens here.
Yeah.
Powerful ability in the world to influence other people is the ability to tell stories. It literally changes people's brain waves when they're listening to a story and they become more suggestible. So your ability to both tell a story and break beliefs and communicate morals and lessons while you tell a story, you can use it to sell, you can use it to educate, to teach, to reshape someone's beliefs, you can change someone's character, you can give skills. Like there's endless ways, and it's the most effective way to communicate to other people that there is.
That was a quick story. So, that was probably one of the best. Everybody who's shout out to Daman. Good morning to Daman as well. He's the reason why I've actually kind of heard about Alex Hormozi and actually started following him. And I know DJ talks about him a lot. So, Jeff, we have, we can take it to a full hour today. We'll just have some fun with this one because this is probably one of the best topics that I've personally think that any salesperson should do. So I'm going to share a little story with you as we're talking about storytelling. For me coming on this podcast, Jeff, I think I came here in September or November. So yeah. It was, both of us, we came during different circumstances. And for me, when I look back at the podcast and things like that, from one of the biggest things I constantly want to work on is getting rid of the knows, the likes, the ums, those filler words, right? So last night I took the first step into going into that journey. I went to my first Toastmasters meeting. They meet every Wednesday from 7 to 9 in my local area. And just the uplifting and the messages there and the support that they give there. I've heard so much about Toastmasters, and that's what my journey is. I believe like telling a story is important. Personal life, professional life is one of the most key things that you should have.
Yes.
Yeah. Jeff, what does storytelling look like to you?
I think, I know it's talking about a relatable subject to whomever it may be, whether it's a friend, an associate, someone that you just met, to open up the conversation. And of course, a prospect or a customer, you want that relatable engagement so they feel comfortable. I think it's about being comfortable and having that understanding.
Awesome. And I love that. And I think for me, and we'll kind of go back and forth with our tip, because the amazing thing about storytelling is that there's no rules. And that's what I love about logistics, right? There's no rules to it. You can find your success in whatever you kind of find the success in. Jeff, for me, I feel like any good story, I love a lot of like stand-up, watching Kevin Hart, Dave Chappelle, Eddie Murphy, those guys. And the one thing that I've learned from them is that there's a beginning and there's an end. There's not a, let me get to the moral of the story. There's not a, hey, you're talking for 5 minutes and the story starts like 5 minutes later. Be not necessarily be concise, but one of the best things is like, you want to go from A to B, but sometimes there's fun in the shortcuts, sometimes the detours, and being able to tell the story. So, we'll talk about the business. Let's break it down for the episode. Let's talk about personal stories when you're introducing yourself, because yesterday you mentioned something amazing, or the day before, where you just asked somebody, they asked you, what do you do for a living?
Exactly.
And then you're able to connect with that. So can you talk a little bit about, let's say, like meeting new people, even with your friends and stuff like that? Is there certain things that you kind of look for when you're telling stories?
No, not really. I'm just being myself. I think that's the most important thing, that you're not trying to be someone that you're not. So like if I'm standing in a line at a grocery store or something like that, and I see somebody having a problem, I'm like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I had that the other day too. No, here you go. You're going with that storytelling. You're trying to relate to them to make them feel a little bit more comfortable that, hey, you know what? You're not alone in this. I've been there. I've seen it. It happened to me. And then you start talking about that situation and they're like, okay, I feel a little bit better about that. I mean, have you ever done that? Have you ever been like in a line and you just happen to spark up a conversation out of the blue, and you find out there's a lot of relatable subjects that you have in common that you never knew. You weren't even expecting it. And it's those things that spark the conversation to go a little deeper, a little more deeper, as you can communicate more. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I love that. I think that's the best thing. And it's funny, that reminded me of a story personally. I had to return something like 2 weeks ago, and we were in line forever. There was just one poor guy just working, and there was like 6 people. And I just started a conversation with the person in front of me. And the first question I asked him was like, how long you been here? Like I need to kind of plan out my time as well. And then we kind of just talking about, and then we talked about I was returning like an iPhone case, and he was returning some computer equipment, and just being able to like connect with those things. What's the best story someone's ever told you, Jeff?
I've heard so many stories. I can't even pick one. I mean, because there were a lot of good ones. And I think the bottom line, to just cut to the chase, is that you get that response of, no way, you're kidding me. It's like one of those kind of things where you're like, no way did that happen. I mean, it's that intensity. And you try to do that with your business transactions as well. It's like, really? No, unbelievable, and then all of a sudden things start rolling off your tongue. So, I mean, I can't really pick out a specific story because, like I said, I've heard so many really good ones that, are just amazing, just absolutely amazing, that wants you to ask for more and more and more.
I'll ask you the other question of that. What's the worst story somebody's ever told you?
It would be a lie. It would definitely be a lie. Because my intuitive nature is, when you hear something and you doubt something, you check that out. At least I do. It's just like, really, and then you start asking these questions, and all of a sudden it's not the truth. You find that out because you expose it for what it is, So yeah, I mean, I think we've all had that before. It's just like somebody, like I said, don't fake it to make it, and a lot of people out there do just that, to get that exposure, and then they get caught with their pants down. It's over. It's done.
It's done. You're dead in the water. Like, there's really no comeback from that. Once your integrity and your authenticity, like,
absolutely,
is gone. That's like me saying, like, hey, like, yeah, I've been to New Jersey. I've never been to New Jersey. And like Jeff is like, yeah, I live in New Jersey, right? So it's like he starts naming off spots. I'm like, yeah, that place. And you're like, yeah, that's it. You're gone. You're gone. Your credibility is completely gone. And I think when it comes to, like, with our theme being planning and mindset for the reps before they make their first phone call, you think about it too, right? Like, you think about the pitch and the storytelling that they're having. And Jeff, I want to ask you this question. So a new rep coming in, they finish the training, they're going to mindset. They're not going to have stories, like completely brand new into the industry. What is your suggestion? And I know where it's going to lead, but I kind of want to throw you up that 90-mile fastball down the middle for you to kind of hit this one. What do you suggest for somebody to start building stories?
I would use examples of what you read and the knowledge that you've gained from what you've read, to try to trigger that, instead of I did that. No, yeah, I read a lot about that subject, and you're absolutely right, and my take on that, and then you start rolling it off the tongue, right? And then as you have these conversations, if it goes that direction, you hope it does, you're going to take that knowledge that you just learned from that conversation, and now you're building that storyline that you can take because you're following that path, you're following that niche, right? You're building that story, for what you want to do in this position. And you're going to take that and then start creating more and more stories and building on that. It only takes one story that can just blow out of proportion. So that's the way that I would do it. If you don't have it, learn it and relate to it.
I love that you said that, because I feel like when it comes to like stories, even when we're talking about, let's say, a sales pitch, for example, right? If I'm reaching out to a logistics manager, I don't want to tell them like the boring, bland, industry related stats. Like, I don't want to go to Freight Waves and copy and paste an article and send it to them and be like, hey, your thoughts? No, I would want to kind of give them a real life scenario where your services or your product made someone's life easier or better. And that's what's really important for me. You want to kind of show that benefit, but you want to be human with it too, as well, right, Jeff? As you're kind of always kind of saying. And
Absolutely.
I know that, like you said, talk about the training. I watched a video, and it's so relatable to what you said. By the way, I'm having so much fun with this topic. This topic is,
I love it.
This is so fun. But with that being said, I saw a video where a guy was basically talking like, you want to kind of be, if you're going through training and you're learning something, give that time for it to marinate. So write it down, read it over. Don't pick up your phone and start getting distracted by YouTube or even like industry work, like emails and things like that. Simply just be bored so that you can focus on basically your better pitch here. And, Daman brings up something here about Toastmasters specifically, whereas, Toastmasters is incredible. For those who don't know, Toastmasters is like a worldwide organization. You can literally type in your local Toastmasters. Everybody has a club. And the first class is free, and the yearly dues are less than $100. So you get your money back, but they're for like public speaking. But Daman brings up here, Toastmasters is incredible, especially when you have to count back all your filler words. And then there's that moment where you're like, yeah, I did. Did I really use that filler word that many times? Right? And it's a work in progress, right? So I think that's awesome. What are your kind of thoughts, Jeff?
Yeah. To reflect on that, like I said, build your own story. Don't say it verbatim, what was read. The worst thing you can do is attack a prospect with a scripted message. Because you come across, and I'm telling you from experience, you come across as a freaking robot, like a freaking machine, monotone. Mm-hmm. And you don't know when to break. So the sentence goes into a paragraph, into a huge story that never ends. And that's the way that it comes across. Just be you. That is the most important thing. Don't pretend to be someone that you're not.
Yep.
Be you. Be that engagement person. You know what? Here's the best advice. Have that conversation like you would with your mother. I mean, seriously, right off the tongue. Hey, Mom, good morning. And then you just start. I mean, if you think about that process, of just being you, that freedom to come across and say what you need to say without thinking about it. You don't think how you're going to wake up in the morning and say, good morning, Mom. You just do it. I mean, that's the thought process you have to have in you when you make those phone calls. It's just like calling you, Ryan, out of the blue. Hey, Ryan, what's happening? I mean, it's just like it's natural. Go into that script thing.
Well, you often, and then like you put in the mindset, right, of somebody who's never sold before, and even if they have sold before, that's why I feel like things like Toastmasters, even if you're not want to do Toastmasters, things like your club, and I know you guys have a meeting today with your association. Get involved with people who have stories. Learn from stories, and always be asked. Like, I would love, like, there's times that I've called you and like, okay, what would you do in this situation? Okay, why did you do it this way? Who did you do it? Like find out. Be always a listener. And one thing is always kind of really imperative is to understand that, hey, I'm kind of learning where the story is going to go, but you already have the end in mind, right? And the devil is in the details.
You don't want to be talking to that end result, though, because then it's not going to come across.
Well, there's two differences, right? There's two
Right.
differences, right? Like so I'm talking like storytelling where there's a story. So Jeff, this one time I went to Florida and blah, 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 blah. But then if you're really relating to an experience, you don't have you know what the outcome is, but at the end of the day, it's open dialogue, right?
Yeah.
You want that feedback. You don't want to be preachy. I always kind of feel like whatever audience you have, you want them to feel empathy, not sympathy for you, right? Nobody wants to feel sorry for anybody. Right. Yeah. So it's definitely relatable in what you've done with everything with your association and then getting your way out. And one thing I've seen with you, Jeff, is that you've been doing a lot of storytelling through your content. Can you talk about like your mindset? Like you've been posting a lot of content and it's all like storytelling based. Tell the audience a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's engagement board. I'm in this stage of life where I'm more. I want to offer more as helping advice. Listen, I'm not the professional salesman. I don't want to come across as the expert because I don't think there's anybody out there that's a true expert in their field. Okay, what I try to do is to be able to have somebody have that thought-provoking idea in their head that, that makes a lot of sense. How could I take that? Is that real? Is it readable? What am I going to take from that? And that's how I do it. I mean, I think about what I want to write because I just don't want it to come across, but it's what I believe in. It's my experience. It's what I've given and what I've received, and it's all fact-based. It's all true. It's not blown out of proportion, and it's just it's that feeling that I need to say this kind of stuff. So whether or not I don't look that I'm trying to tell a story. I'm just trying to say what it is. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, you're putting your experience out there, and then people they're going to resonate with it or they're not. But you're not here focusing on the people who are not. People are communicating with you, and I think when it comes to even having a story, even with our message here is to get people's attention. This is a day, like maybe they're scrolling through it and they come across our episode. Hey, maybe I can add some value onto here. Jeff is talking about his ways of telling stories, and then even myself. And I think getting like your prospects' attention, getting logistics, even your boss's attention. I think the language should always kind of be like short, to the point. So let me give you a quick example here. Like if I was to say, my dogs are my best friends, I don't need to explain it. I don't need to explain that my dogs are at the door waiting for me.
Very self-explanatory.
There we go, right? And have those impact statements to know that you don't need to go into that further. As we kind of welcome Scott here. Love to see you on here this morning, Scott. Jeff, what are some ways when you were in that logistics manager's chair for, like you said, for Panasonic and the other companies and Schneider and so on? What are some good stories or what is some good ways that people got to resonate with you where you're like, maybe we'll take this conversation further to, hey, I'm closing the door shut. I'm done.
Yeah. Again, it's all based on it's experience based because you can't really tell a story if you don't have the experience to relate to offer to somebody to help them move forward. Right. Because in other words, you would still be in their position sitting there and you wouldn't know what to say. So you're trying to tell them a relatable thing. Oh, I see that problem that you had. That this is how I resolved it. Now I'm not telling you how to do it, but here's the end game. This is where you need to go. What are your thoughts? And I ask those open-ended questions to get them. It's an actionable question. You're not telling them what to do, but you're asking them a question without telling them how to do it so that they can engage you in order to figure it out for themselves and develop what they should be doing, which helps them to develop their career, if that makes any sense, because you're helping them to step up. You're trying to get them to think. So that's why you want to have that relatable story. Oh, yeah, I had that customer too. And unfortunately, they kind of said the same thing what you're telling me, and this is how I handled it. Oh yeah, what? How do you think I should? Well, how do you want to handle it? So it's like you're there's no real right approach, but you're getting them to think about the process and the steps in order to be successful and have higher success rate when you make those kind of calls, or if you've got a problem on the inbound side or the outbound side or claims or freight payment. I mean, I can just keep on going on and on. I've had all those touch points, so I'm trying to relate to each subject to give them some pointers. That's all I'm trying to do.
That's awesome. And I just kind of realized something here. We have Daman and we have Scott. They're two trained. They both train and develop agents. I'd love to get both of your opinions on how do you guys incorporate storytelling, if you do, into your own training, and having those conversations with those reps and agents for better conversations, right? Rather, it could be a script, like start with a script. We'll kind of go from there as a completely brand new person. But I think when you're getting the prospect's attention, you're having them kind of hooked, right? You kind of got that hook, line, and sinker action. And then how many times, I know, probably not with you, Jeff, because you're very experienced and you know what to look for in calls. But I know myself, I'll be on a call and I'll be like, I killed this call. This call was one of the best calls I've ever had.
I feel that too. I feel that. I feel that too. It's like, here's two things that I say about brokers. You're either grabbers or pickers. And what I mean by that is that some brokerages out there, they go after everything that moves in order to get quantity of customers to increase their revenue. I'm a picker. Okay, so I pick specific industries and what I want to go to, and I want large opportunities. So I'm not going to be digging into all of that. And what I found out, yesterday I said, for shit and giggles, I'm going to look at brokerages out there, and I want to see the background of the people that work there. And I started going into all of them, and 1 in 20 reps or sales guys have logistics experience. All the others are just like sales. And so that made me think that, that's a huge opportunity where they should be getting that knowledge and stuff like that. Talk about planning, right? This is this whole week about planning your week and planning how you are going to talk to these people and have these relatable stories. How are you going to do that? Well, you need to get that knowledge base, what they're lacking. I just found it, similar. And it's funny, the opposite is true, that not a lot of salespeople go into logistics operations on site running logistics. So, there's that huge gap that I'm saying, it's like you need to get that exposure to tell a really good story, to dig in deep into the weeds and get underneath there, and it's just an observation. I just did that. I don't know.
And you didn't know what the topic was going to be today. You had no idea.
No. And it's all about that planning. It's all about that planning and being able to have that engagement with your prospects and having that knowledge base that I think a lot fail. They just roll with the punches, and because they're working from the outside in rather than the inside out, which I think they should be doing. I mean, I think that they would be more prosperous if they had that knowledge. They're doing very well. I'm not saying that, but I look at the what ifs and saying, if they did that on the planning side, would they be able to take it up another level and get to where they really need to be, because of that lack, but.
And it just reminds me of that story of, hey, if you had an hour to cut down a tree, what would you do? Right. And this basically the answer is, hey, I spent 55 minutes sharpening my axe, and then 5 minutes to cut down the tree, right? And you kind of want to get that knowledge base, and that's kind of like Scott. I love the discussions kind of happening here. Everyone starts somewhere. I believe the best way of process is develop. It's from experience that Jeff was saying. This worked well in position. Let's make it a process. Right. That didn't work. Let's change this process. Let's now make it a taught standard, right? And that education where it can always be changed upon. How many people think that they can't deviate from learning, which is crazy to me, because here's a great example for it. If you have an iPhone or any Android, look how many times you get a software update. So that means Apple is not at the peak of what they do. They're not okay, we've got to the software update, we're done. There's always going to be
and let me ask you this. Gotta ask you this. When do you do the updates on it?
I wait. What do you mean? when I
Yeah,
do,
it's like you're due for an upgrade. What do you do with that?
oh,
I always do it when I'm sleeping. I say, yep, update my phone at 3:00 in the morning, so I don't have any downtime. I mean, again, it's a plan. It's a plan. You talk about chopping a tree. Now, are you going to take an axe? Are you going to take a saw? Or are you going to use a chainsaw? How much time do you want to spend on that? It's the same with the prospect. When you look at it, how much time are you going to invest? And do you have the proper tools and the engagement planned out in your head, because you've done all that research and that homework, and you know that guy, that company like the back of your hand, like your mother? How are you going to do that? I mean, are you going to spend months on end with a saw sawing into it bits and pieces? Or are you going to hack the crap out of it with an axe? Or are you just going to say, you know what? I've got all the tools necessary. I'm chopping this sucker down right now, So, with a chainsaw. So, I mean, it's that approach. It's that mindset. It's that planning. How are you going to attack this problem and be successful? What's the best route in doing that?
I love that. I love that, Jeff. That was amazing. And as David kind of brings up here, upgrade skills and you upgrade your life. And oh, I just said, since Damon left the comment, I've been very mindful of like not saying those trigger words. So that's definitely gonna be my work in progress.
You know what I did? You haven't heard me say a lot. I've been like getting my mindset,
Well, now I'm thinking about it, so I'm like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it at all anymore.
Oh my God, I'm becoming a professional podcaster. What the hell am I going to do now?
I feel like Toastmasters needs to be our sponsor. Maybe we'll be reaching out to them
There we
afterwards. And, upgrade your skills and upgrade your life. And that is a great message that David brings here, because when you and I talked last Friday about the themes and how we're going into it, I'm a big fan, not necessarily of war specifically, but I love like those old Greek mythology movies, those Romans, those going into battles like 300, Troy. Those are some of my favorite movies. And I kind of related it to like this week was like, hey, you did the training. This week you're picking your weapon. Next week is that you're actually going into battle. And then the week after is that you actually won, right? So I think like, let's see what Rob kind of has to say here. He's built pallets, loaded trucks, driven, and had his own trucking company. Ran a shipping department, sales. However, it's been a struggle. I can relate to Jeff. I am not a sales guy. Jeff hates brokers. I
hate brokers. I do. I have many friends, man. I love everybody in the industry, and I look forward to going to an event or a couple this year. And if I met Scott, I'd shake his hand. And I give him a hug like I've known him for freaking years, because I'm not an introvert. I'm an extrovert. And that's how I treat my prospects, my customers. I make other people feel more important than myself. I'm not the bear in the room. I'm not going to destroy anything. I want to hear what you have to say. That's the proper way of doing things. Keep yourself small and make them larger than life. That's it. Period.
That's the power of storytelling, and I think that's really important. And we kind of relate that, right? Like Rob said, that he's not been in sales, but he has the experience. He has a leg up on a lot of people going and making that first customer call.
That's great.
And being able to sell those stories.
Rob, that is your open door. That's what I've had close to 40 years of being in operations and knowing a hell of a lot of things that happen inside of a logistics operation. I don't talk about freight, my friend. You don't need to talk about freight, because you can open up the door with your experience by telling them a story. You don't have to plan it because you know it, so it's going to roll off your tongue. Just be yourself when you make that phone call, and don't open it up with, hey, I have capacity. I have the best rate. Don't even engage that. You want to open up that customer and find out what his major problem is, and then relate that problem to your experience. And then that starts the conversation, and it starts rolling, my friend. I'm telling you right now, it will start rolling. Be a picker, don't be a grabber, and find out everything that you need to know about that individual, and you'll do fine. Trust me.
That's perfect. And in short, my kind of last, and I'll leave this up to you when it comes to storytelling as well. But for me, the last thing, most important tip for me is that facts tell people things, and people necessarily don't want to be told things, but stories sell. and being able to sell to people here and being able to relate to them is really important. Really important. Last thoughts on storytelling, Jeff?
Yeah, one thing, talking about storytelling and data, you mentioned something like that earlier, I believe. Like when you go in and you're providing information, you're talking about fact, right? I'm a fact-based solution provider. I let the data speak for itself. I remove the emotions. So when you go in there, that's a great way of opening up a conversation by relating the information that you have to what your thoughts are and how that relates to a problem. Let that data, you build that data, bring that data, explain that data, and here's your story behind it. It's all relatable. It really is. There's a story in every piece of the pie out there. There is.
And there's no one puzzle piece, right? Because as really with facts,
there's many puzzles.
Right? So it's just not one. And because like you're talking about that, I'm the opposite. I'm all emotional. I'm all relationship based to connect with that person, and then we'll talk about it after. But with that being said, it's an amazing episode. Maybe we'll do a part 2 of this because this is the stuff that we can do. Jeff, you got a busy day. Run down your day for us for some key important things that's going on in your career today in life.
Yeah. My board and myself with my association meeting at noon, having a luncheon. We're getting ready to have the relaunch because last year the launch of it really didn't work. Again, I'll just say piss poor planning. It wasn't there. We were all gung ho, and we just didn't have the right pieces in the right places. So we're going to figure that out now. I've got a lot of people who want to engage with us to make this work. Again, all educational. Then this afternoon, I got work between that and then after that, I have some more. And then hold my beer at 4:30. The real actual relaunch last week kind of sucked. I took the blame. You have to be willing to say I took the blame, and I did. I screwed up, and TJ had a little bit of a tech problem too. So that happens in life, right? It's how you rebound. So we're gonna have a good show this afternoon, and
it's gonna be awesome. I just smirked a bit because I remember when Scott was on our show last Tuesday, he says he only watches Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So we had him on a Tuesday, and now we got him on Thursday. So maybe we'll get Scott to come here every single day.
That guy, I still got to fix my.
Yeah, if somebody wants to call you right now and tell you a story about their internet cutting out, your ears will be perked up, right? So
there you go. There you go.
I want to thank everybody for coming out this morning. Daman, our corporate sponsor at Centurion Trucking, he is looking for amazing agents. They're doing from 30 to 60% GP. He's the man, as you can kind of tell. He's about motivating people and getting people to where they kind of need to upgrade their skills so they can upgrade their life. Jeff, always a pleasure, brother. We've had a lot of fun. Everybody in the audience, thank you so much for coming out this week. If you enjoy the themes that we've been doing, I've thoroughly enjoyed it because we're able to expand and kind of go into the mindset a little bit. If you enjoy the themes, next week will be all about prospecting. So it's going to be 2 different sides. I make a ton. Jeff doesn't make any, so we'll be able to. It'll be a lot of fun. Tomorrow, DJ will be joining us for Friday, where we kind of feed a little bit.
Monday, Friday, right? There you go.
Monday, Fridays, play some games.
Because let's face it, in logistics, you have to have those comedy hours, because everybody's just getting slammed the whole week. If you're not, there's something wrong with your business. So, join us tomorrow. We have a lot of fun. Who knows what we'll talk about, but we will talk about something.
We will talk about something. We won't talk about the Georgia game, though, from Monday. Yeah, that's we'll leave that alone. But, we'll definitely be hitting the replay. Yeah, exactly, right? What college game? With that being said, we'll hit the replay again at 12 and 3 p.m. Eastern time on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And we're looking forward to seeing everybody tomorrow. Have an amazing day, everybody. Crush your sales.
Yep.
Tell some stories today. Tell some stories. Share with us some stories. Hit us up in the DMs, and let's hear what you guys got kind of say. So take care, Jeff.
Have a good day, folks. See you tomorrow.